Hello everyone and welcome to this session. Today I'm going to talk about JIPMAT 2025 examination. I'm going to share with you our analysis of the exam. So we spoke with quite a few students who wrote JIPMAT exam and we took feedback from them on the basis of the feedback we received. Our experts sat together, they analyzed the question paper question on the basis of the feedback that we got from the students, and we have compiled our analysis. So let me share our analysis of JIPMAT 2025 exam. So the examination was conducted smoothly. The feedback that we have got from numerous students of time is there were absolutely no technical glitches as far as they were concerned, and they were very happy with the way NTA has administered this exam throughout the country. As far as pattern of the exam is concerned, it remained the same as the previous years. So here there were 100 questions and every question was given 4 marks, and in case a student marks it incorrectly, then 1 mark would be deducted. So +4 and -1 was the marking scheme, and there were 3 sections. The first section was mathematics, quantitative aptitude. 33 questions appeared from here. DILR 33 questions, and English, what they call as VA and RC, 34 questions appeared. So all in all 100 questions, and as I said, every question is 4 marks worth. So the total marks, maximum marks are 400. So this was the pattern of the examination. Now when we spoke with our students, and I'm talking about cross section of students, the feedback that we received, let me share it with you. So as far as the first section, quantitative aptitude, is concerned, the questions apparently were not very straightforward. Quite a few questions in fact tested the conceptual clarity that the student has gained. Now in this regard, the classes that time has conducted, the way the basics were taught, that would have been instrumental in students doing a good job in this particular section, because here there was a interesting mix of chapters, and if you look at the last couple of years of JIPMAT papers and if you compare with this year's JIPMAT paper, you would realize that the mix of chapters was slightly different. But students who have learned the concepts with clarity, students who have done loads of practice with time study material, they would have managed this section reasonably well as such. Now the questions themselves, if you look at the kind of questions that appeared, some of the questions were not very straightforward, and these questions needed students to think a lot, apply concepts from multiple domains, and also involved quite a bit of working out. That's the reason we can classify quite a few questions as time consuming in nature. The topics that was covered again was from wide cross section. You had good number of questions based on percentages. Even probability questions appeared, and simple interest, compound interest, couple of questions were there. Averages questions were there. There was question based on LCM. There was also a question based on HCF. Again, these are the kind of questions when you have conceptual clarity, it becomes much more easier for you to approach the question and get it correct. But people who missed quant classes or who didn't focus on this area would have surely struggled in this section. And if you were to classify the difficulty level, we can surely say that the difficulty level of mathematics this year in JIPMAT is slightly more difficult than what it was last year. And the students who did not take mathematics seriously, they would have surely struggled with this year's quantitative aptitude. As far as data interpretation and logical reasoning is concerned, there was a good mix of questions. You had questions based on DI, you also had questions based on LR. So they did justice to the name of the section, and you had questions from both the areas. And as far as logical reasoning is concerned, there was a good mix of questions. There was a question based on coding and decoding. In fact, there were a couple of questions based on mirror images, and students who would have worked on this concept, who were aware of the approach that one needs to take for these kind of non-verbal reasoning based questions, would have found these questions pretty much straightforward. But in case somebody was not familiar with how to approach mirror image based question, they would have struggled with this question specifically. Series based question was there, seating arrangement question was there, blood relations based puzzle was also there. So it was a good mix of logical reasoning topics. People who had done a good amount of practice would have surely found logical reasoning topics very simple, very straightforward, and the good thing is they would have got the answer pretty fast also. Now, as far as data interpretation questions are concerned, again you had quite a variety. You had both questions based on line graph as well as bar graph. Again, these questions were not very time consuming, they were very straightforward, but students definitely needed to have a little bit of exposure about how to go about doing these questions, and they would have definitely found this very much doable. Overall, the difficulty level can be classified as easy. Some people would say easy to moderate, but I would say it is easy because the questions themselves, they were not time consuming, and we had quite a bit of students, quite a few students who reported very high number of attempts in this section, and they were very confident about their accuracy also. So that's the reason we can classify this particular section as on the easier side as such. Finally, moving on to verbal ability and reading comprehension. Here, few RC questions appeared, and majority of the questions were based on verbal ability, and RC passages that appeared, they were pretty straightforward, and the kind of subject, the kind of content that was covered in those passages were not very dense, very easy to go through, and even the questions that followed were pretty much straightforward. Verbal ability question again had wide array of areas were tested. Sentence correction questions were there, which tested grammatical ability of a student. Vocabulary was also tested with questions based on synonyms and antonyms. People who made an effort in improving their vocabulary would have found these questions very doable, very simple. Parajumble question again tested your verbal ability skills. Sentence rearrangement questions also appeared in this particular section. Overall, you can probably say, based on the feedback that we received from the students, that students would have found this section also pretty much doable, pretty much comfortable as such. So out of the three sections, probably Quant was the only section which troubled the students because of the nature of the questions that appeared in the section. The other two sections can be classified as pretty straightforward and simple to deal with as such. Now, as far as cutoffs are concerned, on your screen you can see last year's official cutoffs of IIM Bodh Gaya. I would like to reiterate, these are last year's official cutoffs of IIM Bodh Gaya. So for general category, 292 was a cutoff. This is gender neutral cutoff. That means it is applicable for both boys as well as girls. Now, as far as IIM Bodh Gaya is concerned, they have a very interesting policy. So what they do is, 70% of the seats initially, 70% of the calls initially are issued based on a gender neutral manner. So without any particular approach, just for everybody, they apply that cutoff and they give calls. If ample number of girl representation has happened, then the remaining 30% of the seats are also made gender neutral, and there won't be any advantage for girls. It will be open to everyone. But last year that was not the case. Last year the top 70% seats, when they opened up, a number of girls in that list was not adequate. That's the reason the remaining 30% was converted into special seats for girls. They were reserved for girls, and that's the reason the cutoff for girls decreased. I'm talking about general category girls. It came down to 282. For other reserved categories, you can observe on the screen. If you want, you can pause the video and you can give a glance to the cutoffs that were there last year for various category of applicants. As far as IIM Jammu is concerned, by the way, IIM Bodh Gaya, apart from this, they also have got sectional cutoffs, but very low sectional cutoffs are there at IIM Bodh Gaya. As far as IIM Jammu is concerned, they have clearly mentioned in their admission criteria document the sectional cutoffs that they are going to expect. So they expect general category students to have minimum 50 percentile in each of the sections. And as far as EWS is concerned, 35, NC OBC also 35, SC 30, ST 25, and differently abled also 25. These are sectional cutoffs. Overall cutoffs are not decided now, they'll be decided later on. And as a policy, it is quite similar to what IIM Bodh Gaya did. IIM Jammu also keeps 2/3 of the seat as general neutral and based on merit. And if the pool of the gender, if the number of students that are getting calls if that has got good amount of girls in it, adequate amount of girls in it, the remaining 1/3 are also opened up and it is kept as gender neutral. But if girls representation is not good based on merit, then the remaining 1/3 seats will be allocated to girls. The supernumerary girl seats will be created, SNG will be created, and then the cutoffs of girls will fall. So the cutoffs based on the observation of the students who received calls last year was quite similar to IIM Bodh, though the girls cutoff fell drastically last year in IIM Jammu compared to boys. So again, I cannot predict right now as to what will be the gender mix of the call getters, because obviously after the exam gets over, then only when the list is made, then only IIM Bodh and IIM Jammu will be able to figure out whether adequate amount of representation from girls has happened in gender neutral seats or not, and then they will take a call whether girls cutoff has to be brought down and those special seats for girls have to be created or not. So we will come to know of it later on. Now the big question that must be there in your mind is, what could be considered as good number of attempts in this year's JIPMAT exam? So let me answer this all important question. So as far as JIPMAT is concerned, I already informed you that the total number of questions are 100. Now these good number of attempts that I am predicting on the screen right now are for general category. If you belong to OBC, NC, EWS, SC, ST or differently abled categories, then obviously number of attempts needed would be much lower than this. So in our opinion, quant, these are number of attempts. So good number of attempts in quant would be 20 to 25 attempts. Mind you, these are not the correct answers. These are just number of attempts. But I am assuming here that the accuracy of the students would be on the higher side. Then these number of attempts will be good enough. If your accuracy is low, then obviously number of attempts have to be higher than this. But if your accuracy is good, 20 to 25 attempts in quant should be good enough. In LRDI, 25 to 30 attempts can be classified as good number of attempts. And same is the case with VA and RC. In our opinion, 25 to 30 attempts in VARC can be classified as good performance. So overall you can say 75 to 85 can be classified as good number of attempts. Again, I want to reiterate, these are not the correct answers. These are just number of attempts. Some questions obviously you may not do correctly, so the actual number of questions correct would come down a bit because of that. But if your accuracy is high, then these number of attempts, if you have made in today's paper, they can definitely be classified as good number of attempts. Now again, if the gender part, if I consider gender part, and in case good representation of girls automatically based on merit doesn't happen in 70% of the seats of IIM Bodh and 2/3 of the seats in IIM Jammu, and if they decide to lower the cutoffs for girls for the remaining seats, then obviously these good number of attempts that you have right now on your screen, they will come down for girls by at least 10%. So that is what you will have to remember. Alright, so I hope you got a good amount of idea about this year's JIPMAT exam, and I wish everyone who wrote the exam and who is watching this video all the very best for the upcoming exams of IIM Rohtak and IPMAT Indore. I wish everybody all the very best, and I wish you all the best for JIPMAT also, and may you get an interview call from these wonderful business schools. So friends, with this I have come to the end of this video. If you like the content, do subscribe to our channel and do share it with other friends who might have appeared for JIPMAT exam, so that they also get an idea about their performance. Thank you everyone for watching this video.